The chandeliers hummed above as my father lifted his glass and cut me down in front of everyone. I'm Daniel Rowland in my 50s, a retired sergeant. The brass bell in my pocket rattled like a stubborn heartbeat. In that silence, would you speak or survive it? Dad lifts his glass. The cut crystal catches the chandelier's glow, refracting sparks across the polished walls as if the whole room has been cued to attention. His baritone rolls out confident, honed by years of boardrooms and banquets. If it weren't for charity, he pauses just long enough for expectation to stretch, he wouldn't even be here. A ripple of laughter begins, but it falters almost immediately, like a wave that forgets to reach the shore. The silence that follows is heavier than noise. Even the muted jazz trio in the corner seems to hesitate. The saxophone's note bends the bass thuds, as though smothered by velvet carpet. My chest tightens. Words pull behind my teeth, hot and dangerous, but they won't form. I am locked inside my own body. The uniform that once carried me through deployments now feels like a punishment collar, too tight fabric weighing on my shoulders. The metals bite into my chest where the ribbon edges curl. The smell of wax polish and cigar smoke clings to the air. Somewhere nearby, a woman's perfume rose, and powder turned sweet into cloying. The chandeliers hum faintly with electricity, a mechanical insect song above the silence. I shift in my chair. My pocket bell rattles against the wood with a small metallic jingle. No one else notices, but it shoots straight through me. For an instant, I'm not here. I'm 12 gripping reins on a stubborn gelding, my father's hand heavy on my shoulder, telling me to make the beast obey. The bell had been my trick, then the sound that coaxed movement when force failed. It was freedom in miniature. Now it is the only thread tethering me to myself. Across the table, Mom stares at her lap. Her hand trembles around a napkin, knuckles white. She lifts her eyes briefly, a look that begs me not to break, not to fight back. I see the tension in her jaw, the years of learning silence as survival. Rebecca moves first. She leans forward, eyes scanning faces, reading the tension like sheet music. Even in her wedding dress, ivory lace, catching the candlelight, her posture is purposeful. Caleb sits beside her, stiff hands pressed flat to the table as if holding himself from speaking. My father waits. His glass hovers midair, lips curled into a smirk of triumph. He wants me to erupt to confirm the story he has already written about me, that I can't hold composure. That the uniform was a costume I eventually tore through. I stay still. My silence is not surrender, but survival. The crowd shifts uncomfortably. Forks scrape plates. A chair squeaks against the floor. Someone coughs too loudly, trying to cut the tension. The chandeliers seem to sway, their chains creaking as though the room itself strains under the weight of unspoken judgment. Rebecca rises. The sound of her chair sliding back echoes sharper than any toast. Conversation still. Even the trio lowers their volume until only the whisper of brushes on the snare remains. Ladies and gentlemen, she begins, her voice clear, steady. She holds the room the way her mother used to hold an unruly classroom. Allow me the honor of properly introducing my uncle. The word uncle lands like a rope tossed across a ravine, binding me back to this ground. She straightens, shoulders square. Sergeant first class, retired, decorated, and most of all, the man who taught me what loyalty looks like. A beat of silence. Then hands come together, tentative at first, then stronger. Applause rolls across the table, swelling until it becomes thunder. Guests stand, chairs scrape back. Smiles break through the earlier tension. Heat floods my face. I want to shrink, but the sound won't let me. It pours over me, into me, louder than the pulse in my ears. It feels both alien and undeserved, yet irresistible. I glance at my father. His smile has thinned, strained into something brittle. He lowers his glass slowly, eyes narrowed, his stage usurped. His applause is late, perfunctory, a mimicry rather than belief. The balance has shifted. Mom dabs at her eyes with a handkerchief, pride breaking through her practiced mask. Rebecca's gaze holds mine firm, unwavering. She does not yield the floor back to him. She has redrawn the scene in her own script. The applause finally ebbs, leaving a ringing quiet. I raise my glass at last, a small gesture, wordless. Enough. The champagne hits my tongue sharp metallic. It tastes of iron more than fruit, as though the glass itself has rusted. My throat tightens. The applause may have ended the moment, but not the storm. The trio resumes a livelier tune, pretending nothing has happened. Conversations flicker back to life too fast, too loud, like a room compensating for its own shame. Yet in my chest the bell still echoes faint, relentless, reminding me this humiliation is only the first strike. I lean back, uniform, heavy breath, caught shallow. The room glitters, the guests chatter, but beneath it all, the storm builds unseen. The balcony doors close behind me with a muffled click, sealing off the chandeliers and laughter. Outside, October air bites clean and sharp, carrying the mingled scents of cigar smoke drifting up from the garden and roses blooming stubbornly against the chill. My breath fogs faintly in the dim light. I need the distance. Just a few steps from the ballroom, yet it feels like exile. "Hey, cousin," a voice says. I turn to see Brian, always eager, always too loud, holding his phone at chest height. The screen's glare flashes across his grin. He angles it slightly, pretending casual, but I know the lens is live. "Just checking on you," he says. The red dot glows in reflection on the balcony glass. A live stream, my humiliation on repeat, transmitted in real time. I don't answer. He chatters anyway, filling the silence with practiced chumminess words meant for his viewers. "Not me. You good out here, big night, huh?" He pans his phone subtly, making sure to capture my uniform. The metal's catching balcony light. My stomach knots. I feel the weight of eyes, not present strangers, parsing my face frame by frame. Behind him, Caleb slips through the doors. He pushes Brian's arm down gently. Not the time, he mutters. Brian shrugs, forces a laugh, and drifts back inside, signal intact. False ally. Caleb lingers. He leans against the rail, breath misting. "It's already out there," he says quietly. "Don't escalate. He's still dad." The words scrape. "Still dad?" As if the title alone erases the bruise. Caleb stares at the city lights beyond the garden, refusing to meet my eyes. He wants peace, even if it means silence, even if it means swallowing truth whole. From inside, muffled voices. The sliding door cracks open again. Rebecca steps through, hair catching the night breeze. She joins me without hesitation, slipping her hand onto my arm. No phone in sight, no performance, just presence. She looks at Caleb. "Containment isn't dignity," she says. Then to me, "Do you want the truth corrected?" Her words slice through the fog. Not cannot should, but do you want? A seed, small, dangerous. I pull my phone from my pocket. The glow illuminates my hands, the cold balcony rail. Rebecca's determined expression. Notifications crowd the screen. Viral headlines already forming, charity case major at mainline wedding. Screenshots of dad's toast clipped, looped, hashtagged. A vibration follows an alert from an old work account I'd long archived. I tap it open. Corporate memo, leak. Family company preliminary audit flagged irregularities. The header glares white against the night cold as the wind cutting across my face. I glance at Caleb. He's already shaking his head. "Don't, please, just let it pass." His voice is tight, desperate. He doesn't want cracks spreading into his world. He thinks silence will seal them. I feel the bell in my pocket press against my leg again, its shape distinct, insistent. Childhood rides stubborn horses, the need for a sound to stir movement when nothing else worked. That memory is all it takes to steady me. I open a new folder in my personal archive. My thumb hovers over the screen, then taps. I forward the time-stamped log of the viral post, attach the leaked memo, and drop them into the archive. Evidence preserved, tethered to me alone, quiet, unannounced, irreversible. Rebecca's gaze holds steady. Caleb exhales, defeated. The balcony is colder now, though maybe it's only my blood slowing, my mind calculating the storm ahead. I pocket the phone, its weight heavier than metals. The night seems to wait with me. A breeze stirs the rose vines below, carrying smoke, perfume, and something metallic in the air. Then my phone buzzes again. I glance down. A fresh notification post hits 10K views. Tagged #charity major. The glow burns against my skin. The cliff edge draws closer. I lift my eyes to the night sky, black and indifferent. Containing fallout was the goal. Tonight, containment has already failed. The voicemail waits for me in the morning, the glow of my phone harsh against sleep-heavy eyes. Sergeant Martinez's voice clipped and steady. Paper beats rumor. Call me. I replay it once, twice. Her tone is the same as it had been, years ago, matter of fact, no extra words. It steadies me. By the time I step into the diner, the place already smells like bacon grease fused into the walls. Chrome edges the counter glare bright enough to sting. The percolator hisses in the background, a constant pulse. Martinez is in a corner booth, back to the wall as always. She wears the same leather jacket I remember from deployment debriefs, edges cracked, still serviceable. A mug sits half-drained before her, steam rising faintly. She looks up, her grin sharp, but not unkind. You look like hell, she says. Wedding reception will do that, I mutter. She gestures for me to sit. I slide into the booth, the vinyl seat groaning under me. I set my phone and the brass bell on the table without thinking. Martinez notices both. So she says, folding her hands, "You've trained for storms. This is just weather." The words land heavy, not because they're new, but because she once told me the same thing on a night when sandstorms rattled our tents, and I thought my ribs would crack from coughing. Back then, she'd leaned over her diner plate eggs over easy, never scrambled, and told me discipline is freedom. Control is survival. I exhale slowly. Rumors faster now, I say. Posts, clips, edits. My father's toast already hit 10,000 views. Hashtag attached. Martinez nods unshaken. Paper beats rumor. What you can prove is heavier than what they think they saw. The waitress swings by, balancing plates stacked with pancakes. She fills my mug with bitter coffee, no sugar, no cream. The smell cuts through fatigue, harsh but bracing. We begin building the ledger. Martinez pulls a napkin closer, flips it, and starts a column with her pen. Service orders, she says, writing it down. Senate record, you testified on readiness 3 years back, right? Commendations, ribbons. And now the audit memo. I nod, sipping coffee. The liquid tastes burnt metallic, but it wakes me. Keep it clean, keep it dated, Martinez says. Not too much, not too little. If you dump it all, no one reads. If you leak crumbs, they'll spin the gaps. One shot, document, wait, reveal once. The percolator hisses again, louder, like emphasis. I slide my phone across to her. She doesn't touch it but scans the screen as I pull up the archive log of the viral post, the memo leak, my commendations folder. Everything time-stamped, everything backed. She points at the bell resting between us. And this prop from childhood, I say, reminds me not to break. Martinez picks it up, weighs it in her palm. The brass gleams dully under the fluorescent lights. She sets it back carefully, fingers lingering. Don't lose this, she says. People like your father want you rattled, not anchored. We sit in silence a moment, diner clatter around us. Forks scrape a baby. Cries the smell of butter thickens the air. Martinez leans back, finally folding her arms. You're not a charity case, she says. You're a record. Every line documented, every step traceable. Build the kit, lock it down, hold it. When the moment comes, you'll be ready. I nod, throat tight. My hands move almost by training. I open my laptop, connect through a secure line, encrypt the archive folder. I drag the files, service orders, Senate record, commendations, audit memo, into the vault. Password, long, random, carved into memory. Then I draft an email. Subject line, personal record. To self-encrypted address. Attachments queued. My finger hovers over send, but I stop. Discipline, document wait, reveal once. I save it as draft timestamped. Martinez watches without comment, then drains the last of her coffee. Good, she says. Now you breathe. You don't move until the ground shifts. That's how storms pass. The waitress returns, clearing plates, refilling mugs. The chrome fixtures flash reflections of us two figures, hunched over a booth, lines of fatigue, etched deeper by fluorescent light. For a moment, I remember the first diner night years ago. Martinez leaning over a chipped formica table, eggs cooling on her plate, telling me that freedom wasn't absence of rules, but mastery of them. That night, I'd believed her because I had nothing else. This morning, I believe her because she's right. My phone buzzes against the table, rattling next to the bell. I glance down, expecting another headline, another clip. It's a text. From Mom, short, Dad wants to talk alone. The words cut colder than the October wind outside. I pocket the phone, the bell pressing against it. The storm is far from done. The reception hall hums with chatter, laughter too bright to be real. I slip away, weaving past tables draped in linen, until the air shifts colder, quieter. The kitchen corridor smells of lemon detergent, sharp enough to sting my eyes. The tile under my shoes is slick, humming faintly with the ice machine's motor. That's where he finds me. Dad's shadow precedes him long across the tile. He steps into the corridor with the weight of a man certain the walls bend for him. His voice is low but sharp enough to cut. You owe us humility. I don't answer. His cologne floods the narrow space layered over detergent and steel trays. He positions himself between me and the way out, eyes narrowed, glass still in his hand, though the champagne is long gone. He leans closer. All those medals, all those ceremonies. Connections. Without us, you were nothing. You are nothing. The words hit harder than the echo of his shoes against tile. My breath condenses in the cold corridor. I shift my weight, hand brushing my pocket. The bell jangles faintly, my anchor, until it slips. It clatters onto the floor, metal ringing sharp against ceramic tile. I crouch instinctively, fingers scrambling. The bell rolls, then stops against the maintenance cart parked by the wall. I scoop it up only to feel the dent. Cracked along one side, brass split just enough to catch my fingertip. I pocket the pieces, hand trembling. The weight has changed. What once grounded me now feels fragile, wounded. Dad doesn't notice or pretends not to. He presses closer, his voice louder now enough for the staff slipping through the hallway to hear. They avert their eyes, hurry by with trays and carts. The citrus sting of detergent sharpens, oppressive. You parade yourself around in that uniform, he says. But even that was charity. Discipline, honor. All bought, all staged. You should have left before embarrassing us in front of real power. His words scrape raw against my chest. My throat burns, but I keep still. Quietly, I lift my phone. I slide the screen with my thumb record mode open. I angle it low away from his sightline. 17 p.m. I whisper, barely audible. Location, reception, back corridor. The ice machine hum covers me. Then, without looking at him, recording Dad's statements. Dad doesn't hear. Or maybe he doesn't care. His voice fills the corridor, dripping contempt. Leave before judge speaks, he hisses. If you stay, you'll only prove me right. You're weak. You're noise. My hand shakes, but I keep the phone steady. Every syllable captured. Paper beats rumor. Martinez's words echo under the detergent sting. He steps back, finally satisfied with the blow. His shoes slam against the tile, echoes ricocheting down the hall like a gavel striking. Something steadies in me. I lift my eyes. Then we'll both be clear, I say. The words bounce against the walls, carrying louder than I expect. The corridor amplifies them, each syllable resonant, final. It sounds like judgment, like verdict. Dad freezes, eyes narrowing further before turning away. He vanishes back into the reception, swallowed by chandeliers and applause. I stand alone in the corridor, the citrus scent clinging the cold tile, pressing up through my shoes. I open my phone, stop the recording, and file it into the encrypted archive. My thumb lingers over the cracked bell in my pocket. Pieces of brass, not gone, but changed. Silence fills the corridor. The staff no longer pass through. Even the ice machine hum seems to soften. Then my phone buzzes in my hand. A program update flashes across the screen. Remarks by Honorable Judge Whitaker moved earlier. The timing shifts. The storm presses closer. I pocket the phone, the broken bell pressing sharp against my leg. The dent cuts faintly through fabric, a reminder endurance has cost. The corridor echoes once more as I step back toward the hall, each footfall loud as a verdict. The chapel anteroom is cooler than the rest of the building, the kind of quiet that feels earned. Sunlight filters through stained glass, scattering red and blue across the stone floor. The air holds a faint trace of incense clinging to linen draped over the lectern, stiff with starch. I sit at a small oak table laptop, open keys worn smooth under my fingers. Dust motes drift lazily in the light shaft, but my pulse is anything but slow. The draft is already written. Subject line for the record. Attachments queued: service orders, commendations, the Senate record, and the audit memo that still feels radioactive. My cursor blinks at the line for recipients. Rebecca slips in dress, rustling against the doorway. Her presence shifts the silence but doesn't break it. She sets her clutch on the table, leans close enough for her perfume subtle like cedar and soap to reach me. "You're really going through with it," she says. I nod, eyes fixed on the screen. Paper beats rumor. She smiles faintly, recognition of Martinez's words. Then she pulls a small mic from her bag, wireless, still muted. She sets it beside the laptop. "If it breaks in there, I'll hand you this. No excuses, no delay." The mic rests beside the dented bell I had pulled from my pocket earlier. The brass crack gleams under stained glass light, jagged but whole enough to keep. I turn it in my hand, the sharp edge pressing into my palm until it hurts. Pain turned token. The chapel door creaks. An AV tech ducks in, clipboard in hand, headset tilted crooked. He doesn't glance at me, just checks the cables running along the wall, tests a mic at the lectern. His voice echoes briefly flat. "Check 1, 2. He disappears as quickly as he came, neutral as a ghost. I return to the draft. My finger hovers over the list of recipients. I add them one by one: family addresses, HR counsel at the company, a local press contact who once promised, "If you ever need sunlight, I'll be there." The cursor blinks. My chest tightens. Rebecca shifts closer, voice low. "This is it. You can breathe or you can break. You've already chosen." She's right. The choice was made back in the corridor when Dad said I owed them humility. Here I only lock it in. I select schedule, send. The options open tomorrow, later tonight, 1 hour from now. My thumb scrolls, then pauses. Judge Whitaker's remarks are set for 8:30. I align the timer. 8:35. 5 minutes after the judge speaks. A window small enough to feel surgical. The click of the keys is louder than expected. Final attachments loaded. I confirm again. Orders, commendations, Senate record, audit memo. No gaps, no crumbs, one shot. Rebecca watches my hands. She doesn't interrupt, doesn't push, just steady presence. I lean back, the oak chair creaking beneath me. The weight I've carried since Dad's toast shifts, not gone, but balanced differently, as if transferred into the draft, now armed. The bell catches the light again. I set it upright on the table, dent facing me. What once cracked now signals change. For the first time in days, my breathing steadies. Calm through control, I click confirm. Timer armed. The screen flashes, scheduled to send 8:35 p.m. The relief is physical, shoulders uncoiling, jaw loosening. A weight lifts, replaced not by ease but by certainty. Rebecca exhales too, as if holding her own breath until I finished. She places her hand over mine. No words, none needed. The chapel remains quiet. Dust drifts, incense lingers, the percolator hiss, replaced by the faint hum of electricity in stained glass lamps. My phone buzzes, suddenly sharp in the silence. A calendar notification lights the screen. Update: remarks by Honorable Judge Whitaker moved earlier. The countdown has changed. The storm is closer than planned. The chapel feels smaller, light fractured sharper through glass. The dented bell leans where I left it, jagged and waiting. I close the laptop slowly. The timer already set the point of no return behind me. The chandeliers blaze hotter than memory, their light scattering across crystal and glass, forcing the hall to shimmer too brightly. The string quartet in the corner has gone still. Bows poised midair. Even the champagne and flutes seems to fizz louder than breath. Judge Whitaker rises, program folded neatly in his hand. His voice begins formal, polished, "Ladies and gentlemen," but my father cuts through before the judge can finish. His voice fills the reception hall, practiced, resonant. "Before the judge speaks, let me tell you the real story." The crowd shifts, chairs scraping faintly. Phones rise almost instantly, lenses glowing like 1,000 unblinking eyes. Somewhere beyond the chandeliers, unseen but palpable, the livestream audience tunes and captions already forming in real time. My phone vibrates in my pocket. I know what it is, the countdown, the scheduled email for the record minutes away. I resist the urge to check. Dad's hand gestures wide, sweeping the hall into his theater. You've heard of his medals, his supposed service, his decorated record. But what you don't know, what I can tell you, is that without our family's name, without our support, he would never have stood in uniform at all. Gasps flutter. A champagne cork pops somewhere near the back, the sound obscene in its timing. The chandeliers glare, hotter fragments of light stabbing my eyes. He presses forward, voice booming. Connections, not courage, brought him here. Dependence, not discipline. A charity case paraded in borrowed honor. The words hit harder because he knows how to wield them. Years of boardrooms, years of speeches polished to wound and still draw applause. The murmurs, ripple whispers swelling into a chorus that fills the edges of the room. Judge Whitaker clears his throat, irritation visible in the crease of his brow. Mr. He begins, but my father doesn't yield. He rides the moment, smirk widening. The captions rise instantly on phone screens. Charity major. Hashtags multiply. The unseen crowd online swells. The noise of typing fingers becomes almost audible in my imagination, faster, hungrier than the quartet's strings could ever play. Rebecca's hand touches my shoulder. A small squeeze, nothing dramatic, nothing showy, but the weight of her touch anchors me where my father's words try to unmoor. I breathe slow. My uniform feels heavier under the chandelier's fabric, trapping heat. Collar cutting against my throat. I hear the fizz of champagne, the shuffle of shoes, the whispered exchanges. Is it true? Did he fake it? Dad doesn't stop. He twists the past again, reshaping every victory into dependence, every discipline into deception. He wore the uniform because doors were open for him. He received commendations because of names whispered in the right ears. Without us, he would be nothing. The murmurs deepen. Some guests look away embarrassed, but others lean forward, phones steady, recording every syllable. The livestream chat must be exploding now, comments, jokes, captions that will trail me longer than memory. The judge raises his hand, but even his voice cannot pierce through my father's momentum. For a moment, the balance of power tilts entirely toward him, as it always did in childhood dinners, boardroom celebrations, family gatherings where silence was demanded as proof of loyalty. But here the silence is not mine. It belongs to the hall, to the audience complicit with their lenses raised. I sit still, throat dry, breath steady. Endure. Evidence waits. Rebecca's grip tightens slightly, urging me not to rise, not to break. Her silent message, hold until the storm delivers its own turn. And then it happens. The ripple of laughter, nervous at first, then stronger. A few guests chuckle at Dad's line about borrowed honor. Phones tilt higher to catch their faces. Laughter spreads like fire through dry brush, unstoppable once it finds fuel. The crowd titters, the sound thin and cruel, under the chandelier's glare. The whisper chorus grows teeth. Charity major, charity major. The phrase bounces between the chandeliers, multiplies across captions, hashtags burning brighter online. External lens number 2, merciless, squeezing the moment until breath itself feels weaponized. I sit in the center of it still. My phone vibrates again, harder this time, insistent. I slip my hand into my pocket, fingers brushing the cracked bell. Its dent presses sharp against my skin. Pain turned anchor. The judge's voice rises, finally sharper. This is not the time, but the damage is done. The live stream has already captured it, amplified it, spun it beyond the chandelier's reach. And then through the vibration, a different sound, the ping of my email. For the record delivered. The words appear across my screen, clean, final. A calm settles strange against the roar of murmurs. While the hall feasts on rumor, the record has already left documented, time-stamped, immutable. I close my eyes briefly, hearing the fizz of champagne, the whisper chorus, the cruel titters, and underneath it, a steadier echo like a gavel striking. The chandeliers blaze, the crowd sways. The judge scowls, my father smirks, but the storm has shifted. And I endure waiting. The chandeliers feel harsher now, their blaze no longer warm, but interrogative. Every crystal reflects my face back in fragments, fractured, demanding. Phones are raised everywhere, glowing lenses swallowing every angle. The live stream is no longer an unseen presence, it is the room itself multiplied and mirrored in every device. Then the attachments begin to surface. Notifications ripple across the crowd like dominoes tipping. Screens light up commendation service orders, Senate confirmation transcripts, audit logs. The archive I scheduled has detonated into the open. Gasps rise. A low hum spreads through the reception hall as people scroll swipe in large documents on their phones. Whispering sharpens. It's real, it's all here. The captions shift midstream, hashtags mutating. In my pocket, the cracked bell presses against my palm, but it no longer cuts. Instead, it warms faintly as if pulsing. Memory and present braid together, childhood reigns stubborn silence, the sting of last night's corridor, but now heat rather than hurt. Judge Whitaker steps forward, his frame commanding under the glare. He raises a hand, his voice clipped but resonant. Lock the doors, he instructs the staff. The murmurs freeze. The record must be set here and now. Two attendants move quickly, closing the grand double doors. The sound of the latch echoes through the hall like a verdict. Rebecca rises before anyone else can move. Her voice carries unwavering Major General Rowland. The room stands slow at first, then all at once. Chairs scrape back in uneven chorus. A wave of upright figures faces me, their eyes caught between disbelief and respect. The chandeliers no longer interrogate, they illuminate. Dad shifts uncomfortably near the front. His smugness has drained into silence, his jaw tight, his glass untouched. For once, he has no interruption prepared. Judge Whitaker unfolds a document from his leather folder. His voice is steady, official, commendation record verified, Senate confirmation unaltered, audit findings entered. He pauses, looking directly at me. On behalf of the United States Senate and this body, present the record stands corrected. He salutes, crisp, precise. The soundless weight of the gesture strikes harder than words. The crowd follows not with military formality, but with applause swelling in waves. It begins measured, then crescendos, until the chandeliers tremble with it. I step toward the lectern. The oak grain beneath my fingers feels alive, carved with every speech given before mine. I reach into my pocket and draw the bell. Its dent is no longer jagged. I had repaired it that morning with care, solder filling the crack, brass polished until it gleamed again. I set it on the lectern. The small metallic echo carries across the microphone, clear, resonant, undeniable. The room hushes at the sound. Then the hush breaks into a roar. Phones tilt down, capturing not rumor but record. Applause expands, not brittle this time, but whole. Rebecca meets my eyes across the hall, her shoulders square, expression fierce with pride. Martinez's words echo in memory. Document weight reveal once. Now revealed. Now irreversible. Dad sits, rigid, lips pressed tight. The crowd has moved past him, the tide shifted. For the first time, his presence is small. The chandeliers blaze, but their glare feels different, less accusation, more witness. The fizz of champagne punctuates the roar, bubbles rising like cheers. The validation beat lands not in a single gesture, but in the collective shift. The record restored, the room transformed. My father silenced. I let the silence inside me breathe at last. Not victory, not triumph, but steadiness. The weight that has pressed down for years redistributes itself into something I can carry. The bell gleams under the spotlight scar. Healed but visible, a symbol made whole again. But the cameras are still live. Applause echoes not only here, but into feed screens, timelines. The storm has not ended, it has changed shape, broadcasting outward. I stand at the lectern, palms resting on the grain, the bell's metallic note still resonant in memory. The crowd roars, the phones record, the feeds overflow. And I endure now, validated, yet still watched. The silence in the parking lot after that night was the kind you feel in your bones, applause still echoing faintly in memory, but the autumn air already reclaiming the space. Cold, crisp, unadorned. I stood there long after the cars had pulled away, letting the echo fade until it was only mine. Months passed. Spring in Philadelphia carried a different sharpness blossoms along the sidewalk sunlight, slanting clean through the VA chapter hall blinds. Inside, the air was thick with the hiss of the coffee urn, the smell of burnt grounds mingled with disinfectant. Metal chairs scraped across the linoleum floor as veterans gathered, some with canes, some with voices loud enough to fill the room. I sat near the back bell in my pocket, its repaired surface smooth against my hand. Martinez was already there, posted near the urn, with her leather jacket folded neatly on the chair beside her. She hadn't changed, still steady, still wry. She lifted her chin in greeting. "You did what you had to," she said. Her words echoed the voicemail she'd left after the wedding night. Only this time, face to face, they landed heavier, grounding me. I nodded. "And now I live with it," she smirked. "That's what living is. You survived the storm. No need to build a monument out of it." The blinds cut the sunlight into slats across the floor. Paper rustled at the front of the hall as a volunteer handed out flyers for a new initiative. I traced the grain of the table with my thumb, the dented bell pressing into my leg like punctuation. Family had splintered since the night of Judge Whitaker's validation. Dad hadn't spoken to me directly. He avoided family gatherings, his absence louder than his presence. Caleb remained distant, caught between loyalties he refused to name. Mom, though, was here. She walked into the hall slowly, scarf draped carefully around her shoulders. Her eyes found me at once. She hesitated, then crossed the room. She sat beside me without a word, her hands folded in her lap. Only after the scrape of another chair nearby did she whisper, "I should have spoken sooner." Her voice cracked on the last word. I looked at her, searching for the weight of years she carried. Regret lined her face deeper than time alone could have carved. "You did what you thought you had to," I said. Her eyes shone, but she held them steady. "I let silence do the talking. It hurt you." The bell in my pocket warmed faintly. I reached out, not fully, but enough to let my hand rest on hers. Small contact, partial reconciliation. Rebecca joined us, then her presence as constant as breath. She slid into the chair on my other side, leaning in. No words, just the steadiness I had learned to read better than speech. She had been there when the crowd roared, when Dad fell silent, and she was here now in the quieter aftermath. Martinez cleared her throat, drawing us back to the circle. She gestured at the room full of shifting bodies and stories. "This," she said, "is what matters after storms. Quiet heroism isn't spectacle. It's showing up when no one claps, when no one's watching, when it's just coffee and paper rustling." The veterans group nodded, murmured agreement, some too lost in their own scars to look up. But the weight of her words landed. The chair beside me scraped again as a man I didn't know passed me a flyer. Community Foundation launch. A program to mentor younger vets, provide legal counsel. Build platforms beyond charity. I held the paper, its edges crisp ink still smelling faintly of toner. Rebecca read over my shoulder. "You could do this," she whispered. I thought of Dad, of Caleb, of the Fishers still unhealed. I thought of Mom's hand under mine, trembling but present, and of Martinez leaning back now with her arms folded, eyes saying she had seen storms bigger than mine and survived them too. I nodded. Maybe I can. The microclimax was quiet. Not applause, not salutes. Just the acceptance of something new, beginning healing, not as spectacle, but as work. The coffee urn hissed again, a steady background. Papers shuffled. Sunlight shifted across the floor. Then my phone buzzed. A new notification. I pulled it out, screen glowing. Invitation: Judge Whitaker requests your presence to speak at upcoming community initiative. The room blurred for a moment, sounds folding inward. Another door opening. I looked at the bell in my hand, repaired, gleaming faintly in the light. Prop turned symbol, fracture turned seam. Healing had begun. The renovated community hall smells faintly of fresh paint, clean and sharp, layered over the older scent of wood polish. Flags line the walls, their fabric rustling softly, each time the front doors open to admit another wave of neighbors. At the center of the hall, under a glass case, the bell gleams. Its brass surface reflects the overhead lights, dent still visible, but solder line holding strong. A placard beneath it reads, "Emblem of Endurance." Rebecca stands beside me, watching cadets in crisp uniforms file through the hall. They stop at the display faces caught between curiosity and reverence. She leans close, her voice quiet but certain. Now it's not just survival, she says. It's legacy. I let the words settle. Survival had been the work of silence, of endurance through humiliation, storms, and doubt. Legacy was something else, offering what remained not just for myself, but for others. Judge Whitaker steps onto the small stage at the front of the room, gavel absent but presence still commanding. He speaks briefly about civic duty, about the power of truth preserved. His words frame the event, but the weight of the moment is not his alone to carry. Martinez approaches next, her leather jacket traded for a pressed blazer, but her stance unchanged, steady wry. She carries with her a field notebook, corners, worn pages frayed. She lays it on the table beside the bell, then addresses the cadets. This notebook carried orders, coordinates, names you'll never read, she says. But it also carried reminders, discipline, freedom, survival. Today, I leave it here so you know storms end, and when they do, you build something from what's left. Her voice cuts through the hall, no theatrics, only fact. The cadets lean forward, listening harder than they likely expected. When it is my turn, I walk to the lectern. The oak grain is smoother than the one from that night, polished new, but it still feels heavy under my hands. Flags rustle faintly above. Phones are raised again, but the pressure of them is different now. I could tell you about humiliation, I begin. About silence and survival under it. But that isn't the story that matters. The hall quiets. The only sound is the soft hiss of the HVAC, the scrape of a chair leg adjusting. The story is resilience. The story is what remains when storms pass, when rumor collapses under record, when endurance becomes more than a private act. This hall is proof. You are proof. I gesture toward the cadets, toward Martinez, toward Rebecca standing tall at the edge of the crowd. The cadets tour the new facility's study rooms, a resource office walls lined with photographs of veterans who came before. They stop again at the glass case. The bell waits for them, no longer in my pocket, but given over, visible, enduring. Rebecca catches my eye, her smile steady. She knows what it means. I no longer carry the bell alone. Mom is not here tonight, and neither is Dad. The fracture in family remains sharp but less consuming. I had thought validation would heal that wound, but legacy shows me something different. Closure does not need consensus. Community can be the salve. The crowd rises not at a cue, but because the moment demands it. Applause rolls through the hall, echoing against the painted walls, louder than any ballroom titters, steadier than any forced toast. It carries warmth, not spectacle. The microclimax is not a single word or gesture, but the collective swell of voices and hands affirming something larger than me. I let the sound wash over me, not freezing this time, not shrinking. Instead, I breathe it in. The bell inside the case catches the light again, and for a fleeting moment I hear a chime. Not loud, not real perhaps, but enough to remind me that broken things can still resonate. When the applause ebbs, I lean into the microphone one final time. Some doors stay shut, I say, voice even carrying, but others open wider. The words linger in the stillness, settling over the room like a promise. I step back from the lectern. The hall breathes with me, flags rustling, chairs shifting, community gathered. What began in humiliation ends here, not in spectacle, but in continuity. The faint clink of glasses drifts in from the next room, mingling with the waxed wood scent that lingers in the hall. I wipe the glass case where the repaired bell rests the seams, now smooth as a healed scar. Justice came, but what mattered more was dignity restored. I've learned that selective forgiveness allows renewal, while revenge leaves only hollow space. Even after job loss, family fracture, or betrayal, a person can rebuild with what small thing they choose to carry forward. On the community board, a short newsletter reads, "Thank you for showing us quiet resilience. I wonder what legacy will we choose to open wider doors,